Talat, tell me what's going on. So from what I can see, the Iranian delegation has arrived in Islamabad already, right? Is that correct?
There is no information available. You will be surprised that there are about 200 journalists that have landed in Pakistan, at least in queue. So there are about 200 who are lined up, but there isn't a shred of information that is available. And there's a reason for that. The reason is that the Pakistanis are saying that who's coming at what time, what sort of photo op is available. That's the kind of detail we do not want to reveal for three reasons. Number one, that is the preference of the main participants in the talks. It's not about Pakistan, it's about Washington and Tehran. So both Washington and Tehran are saying de-hype. So, and we will tell you when you have an access to information, when we're landing and all that. The other
Why
is
is that? For security reasons?
that I was coming to that. The Americans, they have their own security protocol. They would not let you in if they don't want to, and they would sort of, open the doors whenever they want to. So Americans are following their SOPs. Iranians are a particularly difficult proposition. If you ask me, the most important story that I'm surprised nobody has done so far is how the Iranian delegation made it to Pakistan, whether it was an air travel, which route did you use, how were they flown out. This is a delegation and a leadership that has to move very gingerly, even in their own neighborhoods. There has been a string of assassinations, we know that. So even when they move around in their own country, they have to have like 100 protocols that they have to follow. For them to actually sit in an aircraft, go to the tarmac, sit in an aircraft, then be flown, the entire security of the air pathway, and then land, and then be brought into the security zone. That's a fantastic story. So nobody knows how the Iranian delegation has actually flown. Has it flown? I checked
Hmm.
about 3.5 hours from now. They hadn't landed then. So all we know is that the technical teams are in place, that some agenda setting has taken place. We do not even know, Leonie, if it is going to be a proximity talks or direct talks, or will there be a mix of the two? Who will be sitting in the room? Who will be mediating? None of that. This is a complete information blackout that we're dealing with.
And from the Pakistan side, who's going to be there? Do we know that?
That's the thing. Look, if it is going to be proximity talks, I am told that there is going to be a Pakistani intermediary, somebody who's ferrying messages from one room to the other. This is the Omanis model, where the Iranians sat in one room, the Americans sat in the other room. Omanis kind of passed on the messages here and there. That didn't turn out very well in the end after 7 rounds. But over here in Pakistan, my own understanding is that it's going to be something like that. Whether it's going to be a heavy hitter ferrying the messages across, my foreign office sources tell me no. Most likely, it is going to be a mid to high ranking foreign office official, if this was the model to be followed, who will be doing the clerical, mechanical job.
That's so interesting considering this is going to be such a high level delegation from the US's point of view, right? You've got the vice president who's supposed to be arriving for these talks, which is like the highest level talks we've had between Iran and the US in I don't even know how long. So if we still don't have the details, it must be because of security reasons, or are they just worried that we're not sure what we're going to get from these talks? So let's just like temper what people are expecting.
Around this time yesterday, that I'm talking to you, around this time we sat in a detailed briefing, and we were told, security officials and government spokespersons, background briefing, so I can't really attribute a name. We were told that the delegates from both countries don't want to be, the word that I'm using here was actually used in the background briefing, spooked
Hmm.
by over attention to this meeting. And I was saying that, we are not the ones who are creating over attention. The whole event itself is the biggest event to take place on the global stage. But they said that the delegates really want to release information on their own, because they are the ones who are on the table. We, as hosts, are not on the table. So you need to get this right. So if you were to get information, probably you will get the information from the American side
Hmm.
and then the Iranian side. But I would really be surprised if the Pakistani side were to release any information. So I guess Pakistanis are looking towards the Americans and the Iranians to release the information about their whereabouts and when they're arriving and how many are arriving.
Um, Dala, tell us a little bit more about just Pakistan's relationship right now with both sides, right? Because Pakistan has relations with both sides, which is what has made it possible to bring them together.
It's not just two sides that Pakistan is dealing with. It's not just the Americans and the Iranians. You have the Saudis right in the middle of it.
Hmm.
You have the Chinese right in the middle of it. You have the Europeans showing extreme and keen interest as far as the outcome is concerned. You have the Brits actually calling the Pakistani Prime Minister and them getting engaged. You have the UAE watching and eyeballing it very, very closely. So Pakistan really is moving in all strategic and geographic directions, engaging with everybody. So you could say that that puts Pakistan in a very difficult situation because you have competing, colliding agendas. Now, how many people and countries can you please, you one person's honey is going to turn out to be other person's poison, right? But I guess Pakistanis have kept all these balls in the air so far without dropping any, and so Pakistan is keeping everybody engaged. Saudis have been playing ball with Pakistan, and they understand that they are not going to be taking the kind of lead from UAE that suggests that Iranians need to be diminished. They have been more balanced, and that is why you had the Saudi and the Irani connection after a long time. I think 36 hours ago. So Pakistan is pushing the talks, but at the same time, Pakistan is also keeping the overall environment with high stakes from all the quarters in play as well.
You're saying Pakistan is the proactive member in this thing. How did it begin? Let's just figure this out.
You
This is
know,
our
I,
neighbor. We
I'm
have to care what's happening with Iran, right? But like, what exactly happened?
Look, you can start from the top and sort of work it backwards, or you could start from the sort of bottom end of it. Let's start from the bottom end of it. You said it. You said it's the neighborhood that we are dealing with. Share like 900 kilometers long border with Iran, and our ties have not really been ideal with them. Remember, we've had a missile exchange with the Iranians long before this war started. But that was an isolated incident. So Pakistan, of course, is affected by what's happening inside this region, and Israeli and the Americans attacking Iran brings the war to Pakistan's third frontier.
Hmm.
Pakistan's eastern frontier with India is already hot. Pakistan's northwestern frontier with Afghanistan there's a war scenario. The third frontier that Pakistan has is with Iran. So if the war erupts, obviously it creates a three-front war scenario for Pakistan. Pakistan doesn't want to have that. That's interest number one. So therefore, that pushes Pakistan right into the role of a mediator. The other is that if push comes to shove, which it almost did, like the Iranians, retaliate to what the Israelis are doing to them, or the Americans are doing to them, like hitting their desalination plants or energy infrastructure. They end up attacking Saudi Arabia's infrastructure. Imagine this expanding. Now, Pakistan has a defense pact with Saudi Arabia. The compulsion of that pact would force Pakistan to join the war on side of Saudi Arabia. Pakistan would do that, but Pakistan doesn't want to go that path. So there is this, compulsion of the defense pact and the fact that it's not Pakistan's war. Pakistan doesn't want to fight it. So there was another reason for Pakistan, therefore the regional reason to push for peace. So Pakistan, found this opportunity and threw an off ramp to both these countries. And I suppose a lot of back end diplomacy must have taken place. The one name that doesn't get mentioned in all of this is the National Security Advisor of Pakistan, who also happens to be the DGISI. He's a typical int boy, as we call them in
What's
Pakistan.
DDISF for people who
Who,
don't know, Talat?
he's the guy who runs the formidable ISI in Pakistan, the sort of
Hmm.
supreme intelligence network, the
Yeah.
equivalent of CIA. So he's also the national security advisor. So he has been the operational guy engaging with everybody at the top level. And then you have General Asim Munir. Very interesting. When he was in the other intelligence network that Pakistan has, it's called the military intelligence. He was there. He was engaged with the Iranian Revolutionary Guard in a big way. General Asim Munir also was a DGISI, heading the other intelligence agency that I just mentioned. He has an intelligence background. He was posted on a military assignment in Saudi Arabia for 2.5 to 3 years. And that is where, Leonie, he memorized the Quran. For an adult to memorize the Quran, anybody who's listening can sort of Google that. That is something. So he has a intelligence background. He's got a very smart intelligence guy who's his right-hand man. So on the back end, frankly, lots of things were discussed long before Trump, sent that social media post out that I'm going to annihilate this civilization. My reading is that this peace process started long before that. And the Iranians and Trump both knew that eventually they will have to negotiate it on the table. And my sources actually tell me that you rightly pointed out about JD Vance landing here. They're not traveling this far, Leonie, just to have a cup of tea
Yeah,
and enjoy this
exactly.
beautiful weather in
Yeah,
Islamabad. You know how beautiful Islamabad gets around this time of the year.
yeah.
Iranians are not sort of, going through this difficult journey just to have a cup of kahwa here. So they are coming here with certain outcomes in mind. And I'm told, here I'm giving you information, that the possibility of a breakthrough can come either within the first 40 minutes, I'm not joking, that's what I've been told, or in the next 3 days. So it doesn't go beyond 3 days. That's what I'm telling you. But it can be as quick as 30 minutes. So my sense is that JD Vance is not going to come here only to have an engagement with the Iranians. So something must have been decided on the back end of it.
They've already done a lot of the homework before they got there, right? So they wouldn't have come this far unless they had something in mind. And, as we've been discussing here as well, I mean, in the US, Trump can't keep going with this war. He just can't from many levels, right? The gas prices have been up from a public opinion level. He just can't keep going with that. So Talat, we don't even know when the meeting's happening or anything like that. We just know it's tomorrow and that's it.
All we know is that the heavy hitters meeting is taking place in about, what time is it here now? In about 14 hours from now.
Hmm.
That's when the morning meeting between the Iranian delegation and the American delegation, full delegation, is going to take place. But the night is going to be spent burning the midnight oil or burning the candle from both hands, depending on which idiom you want to pick. Americans want to
Yeah.
go back with something concrete in hand. Iranians want to go back with something concrete in hand, but doesn't look like a come down from their position. And Pakistan doesn't want to be associated with a failure, though it is just mediating. So too much is riding on it for this to fail. If Trump could get the Strait of Hormuz sorted out,
Yeah.
he will have a global trophy to display. He's a trophy man. He wants a trophy. Enriched uranium, frankly, that doesn't move the global economy. It doesn't
Yeah.
affect you, doesn't affect me. I mean, gas prices do affect you, they do affect me, and it affects the global economy. So, Strait of Hormuz and across the war zone, cessation of hostilities, Iranians would look for some role to play in managing Strait of Hormuz. They would also want to talk about lessening and lifting of the sanctions. Americans will throw in the enriched uranium for good measure.
Yeah, I think Strait of Hormuz is it. If they don't get that, then nothing really matters, to be honest. I think everybody kind of agrees with that and they know that. That's the only thing that matters. At the end of the day, we've got the Americans and the Pakistanis there. We've got the Iranians there, of course. The wild card's obviously going to be whether the US can make sure that Israel stays on board with whatever they're planning. So I think that's going to be the wild card is
Yeah, it is. I think, but on the wild card, let me also say this: the back end preparations have been all about managing the wild cards. They want to make sure that they have everything ticked before they sit on the seat.
hmm.
That's so it's not like sort of sitting there and saying, "What is your position?" No, it is that, are we okay with this formulation? Can we add something to it? Can we subtract something from this? But really, it's not about finding each of those positions and fine tuning strategic areas. That's going to be done beforehand. And my take is that before JD Vance started his flight, much of that fine tuning had already taken place.
Yeah, exactly. Because like as you say, they're not coming to Islamabad for a cup of tea, even if it's nice.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. Yeah.
Okay, Tala, thank you so much.